It's James from Team Eternal Hope, and I'm going to be bringing you my deck profile from Team League Cardiff. We came 4th, as most of you will know. My personal record was 6-3. Losses were to Gran Blue. I got grade locked, and then I got stuck on my break ride. But he was a good player. He went 6-0 in the end. My other losses were to Rizo, who finished 2nd in the end, and Kagero, who finished 3rd in the end. But I did beat both of those. I kind of drew 1-1 because we played them twice. So anyway, I'll get straight to the deck list. So my starter is my grade 3 searcher, Red Pulse Draco Kid. I find running the grade 3s I do and running this deck I do, searching for that grade 3 is quite important. Also, he gets you an early soul charge, so I sometimes my main combo is sort of Velocity Dragon, use this guy's skill, and then Soul Blast 2, draw 1 with Tower, so I find him quite useful. Star grade 3s for the X, sort of an obvious sort of thing. Most builds will probably run 4. You Legion with him, you search out for a copy of him or Dote. And then if you don't hit with him, you can Counterblast 1 and retire up to 2 guys. He's pretty useful, basically why you run the deck nowadays. Then I run 4 Dope. Basically I find running 4 is quite useful, especially nowadays with Narukami and their bind. If you lose 1, you've still got 3, whereas if you're running 3 in the Perdition build, you've got 2 left, you can't really do much because 1's got to be your Legion mate. Also, I'm going to explain a main combo with my deck in a minute. Top 8, I feel quite bad for this guy. The reason why I also like it at 4 is I put him from 0 to 6 basically in 1 turn. Basically, if you hit with your Vanguard, you can Counterblast 2, discard a copy of Dote, which is why you need more than 1. And restain your Vanguard. He's also got a cross-out effect. If Dragonic Overlord's in your soul, he gains plus 2k, although to be fair, you don't really want to be stuck on Dote anyway nowadays, so you don't really need that ability. Although, because I run the break ride Dragonic Overlord, which you'll see in a minute, I can, if I get stuck on break ride Dote, say, I am now on 13k base, but even if I don't, I can Legion, and then my Vanguard on my turn has an extra 2k on the offense, which with, say, a 5k, I can hit for 29 on rear guards, forcing out an extra card, or with a 7k I can hit 31 on my offense, which is again another 5 on the Vanguard, which is really useful. I then run my little tech in the deck, one of Dragonic Overlord Break Ride. As I explained before, top 8, I was sitting on my Break Ride, I had a Dote and an X in hand. In fact, I had 2 X in hand if I remember correctly, and I went Break Ride. I was on 5. He got really unlucky. He had 2 cards in hand because he had to G assist, and I knew what they were. He had 1 front row rear guard, 1 back row rear guard. So I rode this on Break Ride, smashed his rear guard. He was on 0 damage at this point. I got a crit on my first twin drive, re-stood with the Break Ride skill. I searched for a second Dote, so I had 2. I then attacked his Vanguard, knowing he didn't have enough guard. Re-stood again with Dote. I then redid it again because I had another Dote, and basically killed him. And he literally, unless he got a 6 damage heal, there was no way he was living that turn. That's why I also like the Break Ride a lot. And he can, sometimes in mirror matches as well, I find he can sort of sway it in your favour. I was playing Perdition as well the other day, and it was the Dauntless Break Ride version, and I just got more out of my Break Ride than he did his, because he's having to drop 5 cards for his 3 attacks, whereas I only have to drop 2. We'll move on to the grade 2s. Run 4 Dragonic Burnout. This guy's really useful. Obviously, you're returning your Dotes and your X's, you just get your, and you can even return your Break Ride. You just get the consistent Legion build, and you can just consistently Legion using the X's skill to search out for another, and you can put more back using him, so you don't have to always return your grade 3s with your Legion skill. He also retires, which is, he's one of the few cards in this deck that do retire stuff, which can be quite nice. Just slows your opponent down and sort of controls the field a little bit better than what it normally does. Not much more to be said. I then run 4 Burning Horn, 9 to 12k attacker, not really much else to be said about him. He's just another boundary hitter. There's not much else grade 2 wise that I'd run. Obviously, if you see my previous build, I was running 2 of the Perdition Guy when you Legion retire and 2 Twilight Arrow, although I was running these as well. This is a very different build now, and I find this build is a lot more consistent compared to the old one, but I'll talk about that more in a bit. Yeah, so you 9 to 12s. I then run 3 Velocity Dragon. Now, most people that know me love riding this guy, playing my tower after I've used my grade 3 Searcher's effect, getting that extra card anyway, so you could actually essentially add 2 cards to hand. And you then pressure them, because they don't really want you to get the free Searcher Counterblast, so they don't want you to unflip, so they drop more from hand out of the game, which is really nice in my opinion, because then you can set up for your Break Ride play and you know they're not going to be able to guard as much. This deck does revolve around the Break Ride a little bit, but it can work without it. I mean, first 3 or 2 free rounds, I think it was 2, I didn't use my Break Ride and I won both games, so it's not like this deck revolves around it. But yeah, damage and flipper is really nice in this deck. I then run 4 grade 1s now. I then run 4 of the new Perfect Guard. I find unflipping damage is quite a necessity in this deck, because it is quite, I wouldn't say counterblast heavy, but it does use a lot of it when you go to your main plays. I mean, the Break Ride uses 1, Dote uses 2, a couple of my Strides uses it, and I do sometimes find I'm running a bit short on counterblast, so getting the unflip Perfect Guards is quite nice. Obviously against certain things like say Laurel, you can struggle a bit, but what I find with D Police, I normally I play 2 Meta Ball decks, top 8 and 6th round of Swiss, and all I did was basically control the field. I attacked his rear guards, make sure he didn't have the field to be able to go Laurel, so he didn't really have the chance to attack my rear guards, neither did. Which is why I think you can get away with running the new ones, essentially. I think the guy who came 3rd as well, who beat me in the mirror match in the 3rd round playoff, who I also beat 3rd round of Swiss, I think he was also running the new Perfect Guards, but you'll see that obviously in the online thing. So I run 3 Stride Fodders. I don't run the Searcher, but the guy who came 3rd actually did. He ran a 1-off Blade Master. And basically what happened in our game for the 3rd round playoff, 3rd place playoff, he got his early game, he rode, I don't remember what he rode, but then he used his grade 3 Searcher, got an X, he then played this, discarded the X to search out for his Blade Master. He then played a Burning Horn for a 9 to 12, so he had a 16k column his Vanguard. He then played Burnout, retiring my starter, and had perfect grade 2 rush basically. I was on grade 1 at the time as well, and all I had was a Burnout to ride the following turn, so we got 2 turns of grade 2 rushing me, so I kind of struggled from there on, and he finished it with the ace. But I find these good. I don't necessarily want to be dropping my grade 3s. I'll occasionally drop a Dote because I know I can search it back out, but I mainly like to use my Stride Fodders essentially. I don't normally call them to boost because I have something else. Another little tech in this deck, 3 Eternal Bringer Griffin. So I really like this guy. Sometimes I can use my grade 3 Searcher. I will normally use my grade 3 Searcher as soon as possible, and I'll grab a Dote, say, and maybe I don't have an X or anything else to hand, so I don't really want to be riding this, so I play my Eternal Bringer Griffin, discarding my Dote, and then searching out for my Break Ride, which I can then set up for my Break Ride plays later on in the game and hopefully get into the X's. He also helps me set up for a Burnout play essentially. I can play this, discard a Dote, then use Burnout to retire basically whatever I want. I really like him. He's also 7k, so he gets a really nice boost, say behind your Vanguard for 31, or 19k for 12k attackers, or his 16 for your 9k boosters. My last grade 1s are Calamity Tower Waven. You'd probably say they're standard in a Kagero deck at the moment. He's really useful. I really like him because you're re-legioning, you've got a Soul Charge 2 straight off, you Soul Charge the 2, draw a card, and then you've got your X's and Dotes in bin ready to shuffle back into your deck of either Legion or Burnouts. So the Soul Charge is really useful and you get an extra card from it. Plus him behind my Break Ride, when I've Broke Ridden on the X, makes an extra boundary because you're hitting 29 on rear guards, and obviously you like to attack rear guards in the new meta, or that's what I like to do. Triggers, we'll probably power through these. I run 7 crit, and basically the crit threat is just useful to try and pressurize people, especially from 4, and say they're running glory crit trigger build, they want to be on 5. They're on 3 and they've got a brake ride. I played a guy round 2 who's running brake ride Genesis, and I know what that thing does. It's scary. He refused to ride, or I don't think he could ride anything else until 3 or 4 times before his end, but he refused to ride anything, so he got stuck on brake ride, and I refused to put him on any more than 3. He didn't want to take the X because he didn't want to restand, and he was also scared of the crit. So he basically decked out, essentially. I find the crit threat is quite nice. I then run 5 draw. I used to run stands, and I really did like the stands, but I find having more hand size in this current meta is probably more important than getting more attacks off and pressuring more out of hand. I mean, the deck does it anyway, so I'd rather have the draw and then the crit power, and draws on the defensive are always quite nice. Yeah, my draws, put into soul, give +3k with my seal dragon, and then counterblast 1, soul charge him, which is nice, so that's soul charge, retire a grade 0. Both pretty useful draw triggers as well, so it's not like I'm missing out on effects. I then run 4 heal, and that's the main board. For my strides, I run a Blizzer. He's really good endgame. You counterblast 1 and flip a copy for every face-up G unit you have in your G zone. He gains 5k. But like I say in our team, perfect guard or die. He essentially is late game. He's really nice, good pressure card. I then run 2 Mahmud, my brother from another mother, as I like to call him. When he hits, you retire something. Early game, I like riding this when I'm on the brake ride, which is why I don't mind not getting on 4 too early, because I just stride. And then you stride into these, and they don't really want to lose rear guards for nothing, and they don't really want to take a triple drive attack normally early game. So he's a really good pressure card early game. I do run 1 Zarm from the new Fighters collection. My combo with Zarm is I'd only do this if I had a burnout and a dote or something in my bin. Basically what he does is when you retire something, you can counterblast 1 and retire something else. So I go burnout, soul blast 1, retire rear guard, returning a dote, for instance. I then have Zarm on my Vanguard, counterblast 1, retire something else. Retiring 2 guys for a counterblast 1, soul blast 1 is, in my opinion, quite effective. If they don't have rear guards, I'd normally ride him as just a vanilla instead of Atmos, because I never really used Atmos effect. But yeah, it's really nice. I then run 2 Root Flare. Retiring columns for 3 is pretty nice, and if I have nothing else that I want to go into, he's quite good to go into retiring columns. That maybe like a Tom or an 8k booster would sort of hurt you. So yeah, he's pretty good. My final cards, I did run 2 the Ace. I did manage to get them before the tournament. It was pretty good. Basically what he does is when during your main phase you can counterblast 2. He uses triple drive, but you can discard a non-overlord card and an overlord card, or just 2 cards as long as one's overlord, and he restands with +5k. This late game, for instance, if your opponent's on 5, I mean, I was playing Petitions, like I said, on Saturday at my locals, and I went this guy, he was on 4, he had a perfect guard in hand, and I knew he did, but he couldn't have guarded the restander effect, so he tried risking the take, and I got a crit, thankfully. But if he was on 5, he'd have to try and guard both or hope for a heal anyway. So he's a really nice addition to the deck. He was good to have for trios as well. Trios was really good. Shout out to Firestorm Games for hosting the event and all the judges and everyone there. It was really well organised. I mean, I've been to quite a few Vanguard events, Team League and Nationals, and I don't think they've had a better event organised like that or run like that as nicely as they did there. So shout out to them. Stay tuned for a few more videos, guys. We're probably going to be doing a few box openings. We've got Set 3 coming out soon, G3. Looking forward to those Shadow Break rides, although I'm going to be building Darker Reg. So expect a few more deck builds from there as well. And I think that is it, guys. So we'll see you later.